volunteers delivering life-saving activities in Solferino more than 150 years back. Nowadays, we're so proud to have so strong network of volunteers and doing our best to be champions in innovations. We as a Red Cross, Red Crescent movement are having diverse nature throughout history. Indeed, what we need to strengthen is to reflect the diversity of the communities that we serve. Diversity should include marginalized and vulnerable populations, not only people living with disabilities, but also other groups like migrant or indigenous groups within our national societies. It is what we do and how do we contribute and how we empower individuals from these communities, enabling their active participation, ownership, and stronger voice within our organizations. So what do make us truly inclusive? These are our systems, structures, cultures, communication, and processes, those enabling participation and ownership by these diverse groups. Saying above, I truly believe that we need to build those systems and structures and strengthen the existing ones that actively invite and include the perspectives and experiences of the communities in the decision-making processes. I believe you all agree that being more inclusive requires intentional efforts to change our governance practices and to ensure that decision-making bodies are diverse and inclusive. And there is a strong link here to systems and structures that I mentioned earlier. Engaging those communities and inviting them to participate cannot only happen by having the system and structures. It requires effective communication channels that reach and engage communities, ensuring that their voices are heard and respected. In addition, I believe that systems and structures should be strengthened by developing a culture of inclusivity within our organization, where the diverse needs and perspectives of marginalized communities are embraced and prioritized. What should we do to achieve our diversity and more inclusion is to break down barriers that we're facing in creating opportunities for people living with disabilities and other groups to actively participating in volunteering. This opportunity should include not only training, but other resources and innovative approaches to ensure an inclusive environment for volunteers living with disabilities and other groups. Impact of these approaches will be at highest level when initiatives come from volunteers themselves, as well as the communities that we serve. So there is a need for action. I truly believe that we are all at the same side if I say that systems, structures, organizational culture, and commitments require impactful actions. I'm addressing the summit, ensure that there will be millions of ideas and practices how we can become more inclusive, though I would like to put emphasis on following. I encourage all our national societies, volunteers, members, and simply supporters of our beloved movement to prioritize inclusivity and accessibility in their volunteer programs. We need to develop and implement policies that promote equal opportunities for individuals living with disabilities and other groups to engage in volunteering. As mentioned, there are so many good practices within the Red Cross and Red Crescent. And hereby I encourage knowledge sharing and collaboration, exchange of best practices, success stories, and lessons learned among national societies in promoting inclusive volunteering, and inspire and guide each other. In this way, I believe we will become champions as a learning organization. Hereby, I would like to express my gratitude to Kenya Red Cross Society for hosting the summit, the IFRC Solferino Academy for organizing the event in Nairobi and online, as well as our partners and sponsors and attendees for their support and participation in this session today. And huge thank you for this session and contribution to Carla. Please contribute to the conversation. And I do believe that this summit is a fantastic opportunity to change and reimagine humanitarian action. So looking forward to the inspiring discussions and collaborations that lie ahead. Only we can change within our national society and within the movements. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was a dream session. When we started thinking about doing this session, one of the first questions was, why to talk about inclusion and people with disabilities and volunteering for all in an innovation summit? What is about the innovation here? And the thing was that I hear this morning a good friend from another national society who says, innovation is also a way to come up with a solution in a problem. And it's also thinking different, something that we already do. We work with volunteers. Are we enable everybody to make their part? Yes, no. Are we ready to work with people with disabilities? Can we look at volunteering in a different way? And in that sense, can we innovate in volunteering? And that's the reason we make this session. It's a session that doesn't have any expectations about coming outside from this room with an incredible thing. We just want to have a conversation. We just want to reflect about a couple of arguments, a couple of themes. It's a topic that is interesting for the people who work with volunteering. And that's the reason we are here. There's also an important thing.
Absolutely, yes. We want to specify that this is like a safe space, okay? So you have the right to feel whatever you feel and to be whatever you want and to express yourself as you want, as you prefer. So for real, just leave the prejudices and try to focus on your expressions, okay, in order to discuss in a freely way.
This is very important for us. Of course, it's normal to present the host of the session, but we want to do with you guys an exercise because we have here the host that you are seeing. But the reason that we are here is because a lot of people have been doing their jobs in all your national societies to allow us to talk here. So we have co-hostings, and our co-hostings are all the volunteers around the globe that are part of a minority, that are people with disabilities. They are volunteering right now. And we hope to be able to just show you a part of that, a part of those people and their voices here with us. They are our co-hosters. You have two here, and I want to introduce Afaf, an incredible volunteer of the Italian Red Cross, Padova branch. She's also a teacher, a cultural mediator. She's also a youth counselor in Padova. She loves children and loves to travel. And the reason she's here is exactly because she's a teacher. And with all her love, he come and develop a beautiful program that she's going to share with you.
Thank you so much, Carla. Carla is the head of volunteering and civil services of the Italian Red Cross. She's volunteering since 1994.
I'm an old person.
No, you're not. She's mother of two, Bianca and Ciro. She's a clinical psychologist, a seaworld lover, and in her free time she writes poems. She's Italo-Venezuelan.
And you are Italo-Moroccan.
Yes. So, yeah, I just met her at the airport maybe 2 days ago, right?
Exactly.
And I already know that she's going to be one of my biggest friends. Yes. So,
we wanted to share with you the fact that I'm half Italian and I'm half Venezuelan. So I'm also part of a minority group in my country. And the Red Cross has allowed me to do my part inside the national society. As
me, exactly. Because my parents are from Morocco, from Casablanca. So both of them have to deal with minority themes, minority topics, but we see it as a thing that enriches us, not as a problem or a deficit.
So, talking about problems and how we see things, let's try to come together before we get deeper into the conversation in 3 concepts. Disabilities. What are disabilities for you?
You can share words, emotions, whatever you want.
What is the meaning of disability?
Hello, Laurent from the Solfeno Academy. Actually, I think the first question we should ask is what is the norm? Because the disability is something that's away from the norm up to a certain point. I don't know what's the point, right? I guess it's a sliding scale, but in a way, I would say that somehow it's something that prevents you from living your life, right? Using the infrastructures and system and processes that have been designed for people that don't have disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another concept?
I think it is something that hinders you from doing what other people are doing. Others are walking, you are crawling. Others can see, you cannot see. Others can hear, you cannot hear. Others can touch with their hands, but there is something that is missing that qualifies you to be like others and do what they are doing.
Thank you. Another concept?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so for me, I don't see it, I see disability as when you, it's a little bit complicated, okay. How do I explain it? When you are being denied, like an opportunity, that's disability.
Thank you so much. Another concept of disability? Okay.
I think we often talk about disabilities, but I also think we could talk about alternative abilities, because I think you have alternative abilities if you are mentioned to be disability.
Another one?
Okay, as for me, sorry, I would like to think of it not as disability, but being able in a different way.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We all have different perspectives of disabilities. But it seems that most of us are agreeing in a point. It could be an opportunity. There's something good that we can do that. It's not a problem. It has how we face disabilities. How can we be prepared? Okay, what about minorities? What is the concept of a minority group inside a community?
Maybe in the context, it can be in terms of numbers. I can give example back in Uganda, where we have people who used to live in the forest, and the numbers reduced because that was their originally their habitat, but the government chased them away, said you go and live with others, and in the long run, majority died because of different diseases and the environment that they are now in. So assuming they are 5,000, they are now like 200. So their numbers reduced, and they are called the minority Batwa, minority this, depending on the numbers that they have compared to other tribes and clans.
Excellent.
Okay, I think for me, minorities are like maybe a group of people that are less represented socially, economically, physically, etc.
Excellent, thank you. Another one? Okay. What about a third question? Our national societies are working inside their activities and their programs with minority groups, helping them to be representative internally in the national society. Our national societies are working with people with disabilities, not as beneficiaries of our systems or program, no. As volunteer staff and members of our national society. What do you think about that?
I can give you an example from my national society. I'm from Bangladesh Red Crescent Society. So in my branch, I'll be talking about a branch because it will give you a clear image of how inclusion in terms of like context of Bangladesh works. In our youth branch, the volunteers, there is like a structure. So the youth chief is basically the youth leader of the branch. So I'm from the mainland Bangladesh. There are like tribes in the mountain areas. Like there are Chakmas, there are Marmas, there are like other tribes who are like indigenous people of Bangladesh. So when like in my branch, the youth leader is from like the tribal area. She's a Marma. She's also a female. She's one of the first female youth like chiefs of the branch in the history of the branch. And she's also from a tribe, belongs from a tribe, which is not, the branch is not in the mountain area where the tribes live. It is in the mainland Bangladesh. So this is how we are trying to improve the things so that everyone inside the youth volunteers have the sense of belongingness together. So yeah, that's the example.
Another example? If we were here and they came 3 volunteers in wheelchair to be part of the summit, do you believe that the infrastructure we have here allows them to move themselves freely and do the sessions and do the same things that you are doing in this time? Okay, with that in mind, we are going to go to the second time of this session and conversation.
Yes. Everything started in a really funny way, okay? I received the email from my national society, and I decided to participate to the Innovative Volunteering Challenge. So maybe we can watch something, okay? Thank
Houston
you.
is helping us with the video.
Yes.
We're going to have the video in a few seconds.
So. Yeah.
There you go.
My name is Afaf. I am 24 years old and I'm a volunteer of the Italian Red Cross at the Padova committee. Take Part the Action is the project I am presenting in response to the Innovative Volunteering Challenge. It is a project for the development of social services for people with disabilities provided by Italian Red Cross volunteers with disabilities. Thanks to the collaboration between the Veneto branch of the Ente Nazionale Sordi and the Veneto Regional Committee of the Italian Red Cross, I had the opportunity to attend an Italian Sign Language course. The course lasted 4 months and the lessons took place online and also in person and were conducted by deaf or hearing trainers and teachers who work with the deaf community. Take Part the action was inspired by this experience, which made me realize how my committee and the Italian Red Cross in general can and must become increasingly inclusive and open to change. It is a project that aims to bring together volunteers, trainers and professionals from the Red Cross and from the local network who experience disability firsthand to promote accessibility and inclusion within the volunteering service of the Italian Red Cross. On one hand, it aims to allow to a higher number of people with disabilities to become volunteers, and on the other, it promotes services for people with disabilities that can be run directly by volunteers with disabilities themselves. That can be possible through 3 main activities. Add the new training activities designed and delivered by other volunteers that deal with disabilities, including also the cooperation with trainers and teachers experts in this field from other organizations. Implement and improve the Red Cross network with other associations who deal with disabilities to co-design and develop, through the establishment of working tables, new social services to be delivered to and by people who experience disability firsthand. Make volunteers of the Italian Red Cross aware of the technology and digital tools that already exist to support such activities and eventually create new ones together along the way. Take Part the action wants to achieve concrete inclusion, deconstruct taboos and prejudices related to disability, and develop a greater empathy within the association and in all of us. Do you really want to see a change? Take Part the action.
Thank you. So maybe something more about this project, okay? Because I feel really grateful for my committee and for my national society because they gave me the opportunity to attend this Italian Sign Language course. It lasted 4 months, and basically it revolves around 3 axes, which are accessibility, in terms of all the volunteers are learning something new with people who deal with disability firsthand. Then the second point is, of course, inclusion, because we try to include everyone in this project. I mean, the deaf community, this National Institute for the Deaf people, and this experience was really inspiring to me. And the third point, the third axe was the digital tools, because thanks to this experience, I learned a lot about the internet world for the disability and for the deaf community. So the digital tools can help us a lot in order to be more inclusive. Okay, so what else? Thanks to this collaboration between the Veneto branch of the Italian Red Cross and the National Institute for the Deaf, I followed this course, I attended this course, and we basically learned the history of this National Institute and how to communicate with the deaf people in a really human platform, okay? So we understood how to communicate with them during the emergencies in a real platform way. So we learned how to introduce ourselves, we learned colors, we learned how to describe things, okay, in a very base level, okay? So, I mean, I'm really excited to be here, okay, because I would like to, how to say, to see this dream happen during the next years. And my dream would be to introduce these courses related to disability world all around the national societies. So trying to support this network based in Italy, but not also, that can help us to understand more and more about disability. And with disability, I mean deafness, blindness, motor disabilities, autism spectrum disorders, Down syndrome, and so on. Can you imagine if a person wants to be a volunteer with us, with our national societies, and one of the first things that we offer to them are courses related to disabilities. So courses which are promoted by people who live disability firsthand, day by day. It will be amazing because it will be like really inclusive, and it will have a real and concrete impact in our society. This is a really a very simple idea, but I think it's really innovative. I mean, to introduce trainers, teachers who deal with disabilities in order to make them inside our movement, inside our lives, okay? Because we can learn a lot about them, a lot about their world, because there is not a normal world, and we should like involve them in a really powerful way. Yeah, I truly believe, as Carla said, I work as a teacher, and one thing I really want to, you know, to pass to my children, to my kids at school, is to don't be afraid of the diversity, don't be afraid of disabilities in general, but to be curious about life, about the diversity, and about the powerful that is within the disability. Maybe nothing else to add. I'm really excited to be here and to, to tell you this story, but I'm really focused on this project because I would like to see results in the next years, and I will try my best effort to make this dream happen. With all of you, I hope, we can manage it. I'm really grateful to be here, guys. Thank you.
Everything is possible with that spirit. That's the spirit of the volunteering people. That is the spirit that changed the world and make everything possible. Of course, there's a lot of challenges, of course. Challenges inside the national society, challenges relating to volunteer management, challenges related to physical adaptability of the branches and the headquarters to make possible this. But with that spirit, with your help, everything is possible. You have here the experience of the Italian Red Cross. We have a good friend from the Bangladesh Red Crescent that shares his experience, and we want to invite our beloved friends from the Kenyan Red Cross also to share with us their experiences. Please. A huge applause, please. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So good evening. So I'm very glad, I'm honored to be here today, thanks to the Italian Red Cross Society. Oh, my name is Daisy Jerop from Kenya Red Cross, Narok to be specific, as the attire speaks. Yeah, so I'm here to speak about the challenges we have in Narok and the innovative ideas we have put across to help curb the same. So I have. They should be here in a few minutes. So yeah, thank you. So
Houston takes 2 seconds, but it counts.
thank you. So as I said, my name is Daisy Jerop, and as always, as I introduce myself, I like to say what I like doing, what my passion is. You could be asking, why could that be important, right? So I'm a person who loves content creation. I have passion for media, script writing, and all that. So I saw a problem in my community. It is the Ma community. I don't know, I believe you have seen the culture. Yeah, so I took this opportunity, making use of what I like doing to help curb the problems in my community, right? So that's basically what I said. So next slide, please. So in Narok, as I said earlier, we normally have a problem with teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, that is FGM, early marriages, female genital mutilation. You could be worried, but it is still happening right now back in our community, that is the Ma community. So as you can see, in 2020, according to the Kenya National News Agency, we had 15,000 girls who got pregnant, and these are girls who are still going to school. These are teenage pregnancies, right? So in the recent years, we have seen the government trying to do everything to avoid this, the NGOs and everything. So I thought, this government and everything, they have tried to do their best, right? But then there could be a problem that we don't know, right? So we came up with a theater group in Narok. It's a group of volunteers where we come up with skits, we come up with small films that we use to disseminate the same. So these are the solutions. Number one, we have theater group. In this theater group, we go to schools. For example, before going to school, what we did, we normally have a program called Student Program in Kenya. We go to schools, visit children, form Red Cross clubs and all that. So what we did, using these Red Cross clubs in school, we go talk to the children, and we try as much as possible to make them free and not hide anything. So if the student is not comfortable speaking in the presence of their teacher, we'll ask the teacher to please leave the room so that we can have free space, right? So we talk to these children, and we really try to get to know from them, like, what really is the problem, right? So we got to know a number of problems that maybe our parents might not be knowing. One of them that was what was brought out by many students was that many parents don't have talk time or sex talk with their teenagers. This is mostly with the girls, because the girls are most of the time the victims, right? So because of the culture, the Ma culture, they believe that having such conversations, such talks, and everything to do with those discussions, it's a taboo. Like, it's not supposed to happen. So you realize that at this age, this girl is a teenager. There's definitely changes in the body and everything. So there's a lot of questions in their head, right? And they don't have anyone to get these answers from. They don't have anyone, or they might be having a few people, and if they're there, they're not that open to talk about them. So, and the teenagers going to approach the parents themselves, it's kind of difficult, because the parent has the responsibility of bringing it up to the teenager, but then they have not. So Another one was this, okay, I don't want to use strong words. There's this belief that we trust religious or the church so much. And there's this time we visited a village, it's called Village Market. It's located in Masai Mara, next to the park. So we were distributing food, but then later on, we were talking with these children in the society, and then there were these teenage girls in grade 7 and 8, and I was asking them, looking at your environment, I don't see why people should get pregnant while they're still going to school, because you wake up in the morning, you go to school, after school you go back home, and then maybe in the weekend, maybe the church and everything, right? So they were telling me that they normally have crusades and seminars in the church, and the church, this place provides a very good platform for the various young people to interact. So they were very open. They told me that they happen there, yeah? So I normally have this, I call it passion. Like, I can easily create a rapport with someone who is completely new to me, and we talk it out, and they tell me what the problem is. So, the previous slide, please. So, after realizing these problems, we now use them to create a skit. So we ensure that the objective of this skit, or what we learn from this skit, is that a parent has a role to play. A teenage girl has a role to play. A young boy has a role to play. Like, everyone in the society has a role to play in the community in order to end these teenage pregnancies, genital mutilation, and everything. So on school visit, as I mentioned earlier, we use the same platform. If you're not doing skits, we are teaching them. Like in this picture, this was one of the schools in Narok. We were teaching them on menstrual hygiene. We literally have the sanitary kits, show them how to use them and everything. So that's what we do. When you're not performing, we're having one-on-one discussion. Next slide. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, one of the problems that we realized was, apart from parents not taking up their role of teaching their teenage girls or their teenagers in general, there's a community has several members, right? We have the parents, the teenagers, we have church leaders, we have the village elders and all those. So we also realized that culturally in the Ma community, a young girl can be married off without her consent at a very tender age. So it's like someone from another village comes to that place, they book this girl, maybe by paying dowry early enough, so that when they're of age, and by of age, it doesn't mean 18 years and above, it's a very tender age. So we realized that as much as we try to speak to these girls go back to the same community, with the same environment, with the same male and the same elders who allow this girl to be married off at a tender age. So we realized that there is need to educate the elders in the community, the parents, the church elders, that there is need to stop this, yeah? Because according to them, they believe in culture. They don't see the life beyond that culture. Like, once a girl is married off, definitely education will stop and life will change completely. So this is where we came up with an online talk show. This is a talk show where I am the host of the show. We talk about teenage pregnancies, basically. I mean, that is the main objective of the show. So I can host church leaders, teenagers, I host village elders. Basically, it's every member of the community, right? Including the border people. Like, generally, the point is trying to get everyone to this show. So there's an objective of this online talk show. We talk to them, try to get, there are two things. One, I'll try to get to listen from them, like an open discussion. Let them tell me that this is really the problem. We are marrying off these girls because of this and this and this. Or we are not allowing them to go to school because of this and this and this. And then number two is making them understand that everyone, and I mean everyone in the community, has a role to play. For example, we have let's say in a community, there are these two gentlemen and two ladies, for example. Let's say one of these ladies is impregnated by another gentleman, right? And then this man has a sister who is young. Getting my, are we together? So this man has impregnated another lady, and he has a sister who has been impregnated by another man in the same community. Are we together up to that point? So that is actually one of the skits we did. Like, I try to make this man understand that they'll definitely feel bitter and sad and everything, realizing that your own sister will stop going to school just because she has been impregnated by another person, right? So the aim of the skit was to make people understand, or the men in the society understand, that they have a role to play. If I'm that sad or bitter because my sister has been impregnated, and then I should be having the responsibility not to impregnate another person. So in the end, everyone learns that we might not be directly related to the victim, but we have a role to play. For example, the elders in the community, they can say, no, we are not marrying off this daughter. Let her go to school, let her finish her studies, maybe get a job, and then later on she'll be able to make her own decisions, right? So I'm having some videos, briefly in 2 seconds again. Yeah, one on the online talk show. So this is the first video. Okay, I forgot to mention something. After having this discussion with each and every member of the community, we post these videos on social media so that it can be educative to even people who are not in that vicinity. So this was my first video. I basically did an introduction on what the talk show is about, who I will be hosting on the show, what is the objective of the show, and what do I need to achieve after the show. Yeah, so I don't know if you have time, but we do have time. Okay, thank you. I'll request to have the next video on talk show in 2 seconds again. So that this is a video. I was lucky to host a member of a community who is a social worker working with the children. I don't know if you have sound.
The parents about buying phones to their daughters. It is not bad, but are we taking time to monitor what things are happening? Because now this is also the place they get these things to experience what is happening in social media. How can a lady, like a case I was shared, that a lady was found, a girl was looking how to have sex without getting pregnant in the social media.
And that's a teenager.
A teenager googling how to have sex without getting pregnant. So, and she'll get information from the social platform.
Which could be wrong.
Who is the owner of the phone? The parent. Who bought the phone? The parent. So our parents, what are we doing? We may be pleasing children, but in the real sense, we are losing the future generation
of our children.
So I think the best way is about sensitization to the parents.
And the best platforms are the schools. When there is parent meetings, and they be advised that both parents come to the meeting. The parent, the mother and the father, if they are there, they attend the meeting. And now, what about gender-based violence affecting the men in our community, and they can't speak up because apparently they are men?
So gender-based violence, the best way is also to talk with the police.
Pause for a little bit. So I don't know if that was loud enough, that's the member of the community I was telling you about, and from his own perspective, you can see he was sharing a story. A girl goes to the social media platform, looks for a way of how to avoid getting pregnant, but then practicing the sexual practices, right? So this is a girl who didn't have anyone to go to. You're getting my point? So they didn't have anyone to go to, so they opted for social media. And the parent is not aware of all this. They just believe that their girl is safe, they don't have any questions to ask. But at that age, there are a lot of questions. I was once there, and I didn't have that platform with my parents as well, because it's a gap. It's like a space where it's very tense. You can't bring it up, and your parent can't bring it up as well, because not because they don't want to, but then there's no cultural beliefs, right? So we really have a gap to fill. We need to make our parents realize that they have a role to play in order to end these early marriages, teenage pregnancies, and gender-based violence. So again, on gender-based violence, the victim has always been the girl for a long time, but then are the men or the boys in our society are not being the victims of gender-based violence? I think, I believe they are. We had the same conversation in the same video. Men in our society, most so African society, I won't speak of the other societies because I'm not sure of, but in the African culture, a man has been put in a place where they are strong, they are tough, so they cannot speak up, because if they speak up, that is a sign of showing that you're not tough, you're a weak person in the community and everything, and that kind of lessens the man in you. So we had the same discussion, and we realized that many at times we have, if a man gets the courage, maybe you have been physically abused, maybe in your family, maybe by your wife, for example, you go to the responsible authorities to seek for, to fight for your rights. And the authorities will maybe mock you or laugh at you, so they make the men in their society feel like they cannot speak up, because at the end of the day, they will be laughed at and everything. So that was the discussion.
Thank you. We want to highlight something, and that's the point. A volunteer that we can perceive a person for a minority group can arrive in places that we cannot, can understand culture and language, not language as I'm talking Italian or English, a social language, in a ways we cannot. So we add value inside our national societies when we have volunteers like her. So thank you so much. A huge applause for her. Before we go to work a little bit, because we need your help to do one thing, we want to invite another volunteer to come here with us, a volunteer from the Kenyan Red Cross, to show a different experience.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Mohammed, and I come from Garissa County. I'm one of the volunteers associating with Red Cross. I'll give you a short story on how I started my journey. I come from the deaf community, and back in 2020, when COVID-19 came about, we, as the deaf community, we didn't have any information at all. This started from the deaf schools. we never had anything straight from the social media, from the radios and everywhere. We were not aware at all. So because I'm a bit exposed here and there, I saw this is quite of great concern, and there was quite a big challenge, not only in my community, but specifically for my county, Garissa. So I approached Red Cross to be able to empower me and support me with different equipment like masks and everything. So people really never understood, and especially I have quite a huge number of community who they first heard about COVID-19 from me. So what I did together and collaborating with Red Cross, we noticed and we had statistics of quite a number of deaf people who are suffering straight from our deep in the villages. If you are aware of Garissa County, our land space is very huge, and actually we are not that developed at all. So we'll find that I would travel for 5 kilometers just to give this information. When I looked at our government, there was no much help that were coming in, especially for the deaf people. I really tried to advocate through Red Cross, and I also approached different government bodies like the county government, national government, who continued and were not supportive for the deaf people. For instance, I remember around that time, everyone was running to the hospitals. When you go to the hospital, there are no interpreters. When you want medication or any specific diagnosis, there was no one, and everyone could literally run, us being stigmatized by lack of interpreters. The deaf language itself, it's a barrier to us. And also we have COVID-19, which was a huge giant that everyone was seeing everyone and running. So we really experienced stigma. Also, we have cases like gender-based violence. Among the deaf community, it was quite very high. People thought that deaf community don't have challenges in marriages or families, but we really experienced this at all, this a lot. So we also went to the hospital. We could go to the police stations. It was not easy. And I remember there was one woman back in one of the villages, interior of Garissa town. The lady had a baby who was 4 years old. Because of the family issues that we were suffering, all of us, especially lack of jobs and different challenges that we experienced. So this deaf lady was told to go to the shop and source for food from whichever office. So this deaf lady left her 4-year-old at home, and the parent was not associating with the baby. So this 4-year-old baby went to the interiors of isolated field, and there we have quite a number of animals. So yes, the baby was hearing, but a 4-year-old don't have sense of judgment at all. So the lady went, and he was eaten by the lion. But you see, this is also one of the discrimination. Despite you being deaf, you find that we are discriminated in our own home. So as deaf community, we were not happy because we said that also the family was discriminating the girl. And this is because probably we can say the deaf girl did not inform the parents due to the communication barrier or something. And also another empowerment that I've really done, I've advocated for this girl, and now she's working with the county government as one of the dressmaking officers with the county. Myself, I have a family as well, and my wife is deaf, and I have 3 beautiful children. All of them are hearing. So you'll find that these things are not easy, especially for us deaf people. In terms of communication, is one of the big challenges. And communication, I can say, straight from the national government to the local administration, the chief and the likes, that is one of the big challenge. But I've seen that with working with the Red Cross and the talks that we are experiencing right now, I can see that we are really getting support, and collaboration is one of the key to eliminate the barrier that we are experiencing, and also seeing on how we can be able to help one another. I remember around that time when we were being given masks, we never had even the funds that the government were issuing for persons, or maybe 6,000, sometimes 2,000. As deaf, we never experienced such funds. So, and then it was lack of this, again, I repeat, communication barrier. For example, you see like Monica is voicing. You will find that without interpretation and probably voicing and everything, no one can understand what I'm trying to express. So that was one of the huge things. I want to finalize with a recommendation, how I've been thinking and the miles that have come. So if only the government can employ sign language interpreters, let's say in the hospital or in any public office, that will really be of great milestone to persons with disability, especially us for the deaf. You find that office chiefs, these are the community that everyone in the community go, if not only empowerment, but how can we be able to solve this? You find that we lost quite a number of deaf people due to misdiagnosis, due to lack of nurses and doctors not being able to understand us. So maybe employment of interpreters in these public spaces will be another good way on how to solve. I think that's all for me. And I'm happy standing here and inviting me. It was indeed a short while standing here, and I'm happy.
Thank you so much. Thank you also for the people that it's online at this moment and it's trying to share with us the questions, the comments. We're gonna come to you as soon as we have the group discussions here. Thank you so much. I think we pretty much show our case, right? You believe that the case is solved? Two tiny yeses here and there. We get the point about why we want to include everybody to volunteer. Now I see faces. Excellent. Thumbs up. Excellent. Okay. Now we are going to ask your support. We have a couple of questions, and we will ask you, please, to write down a couple of things that maybe could be very helpful for us, for other national societies, and for the people that is online at this moment. So if you can just join groups, maybe the same groups that are on the tables, the people that are 2 or 3 may become just one huge group. Let's see how it goes there. Please, can you give me a hand giving them? Okay. Let's open 15 minutes of discussion. I'm going in slowly because we need time also to start the room on Zoom. The first question will be, how can we build a bridge between disabilities or minority groups present in our communities with the possibility to become volunteers? What is the role of our national society in building up that bridge between people with disability, minority groups, inside the national society, to look at disabilities as an opportunity, minority groups as a way to arrive where nobody else can do it? The second question is, how can we adapt our national societies in order to do so? Adapt in every single way. It could be volunteer management, it could be structure of the branches, it could be budgeting, fundraising, advocacy with the government, every single way you can come up with. The questions are clear? Yes? Sorry? How can we build a bridge between the people with disability, minority groups, and allow them to volunteer inside the national society, which is the role of the Red Crescent, Red Cross society. You guys want to join one of the groups to have a healthy discussion?
Hi everyone. So we have two questions in order to discuss 15 minutes, okay? The first one, as Simone wrote in the YouTube platform, is how can we build a bridge between the disabilities and the minority groups present in our communities with the possibility of allowing everybody to volunteer? And you have 10 minutes from now in order to share feelings and feedbacks in the chat. And the second question is how can we adapt our national society context in order to do so, to realize it? And for this question you have 5 minutes to discuss. So 15 minutes in total, and you can share wherever you want in the chat platform. Thank you. Me lo prendo qui? Me lo prendo qui? Okay, we have Paulvin saying that we need to create awareness and understanding. So basically we have to talk about it. Nice. Paulvin Nelvin. Thank you. What else? think about the impact you can have in your communities, for example. How can you build bridges between disability minority groups? Andrew Johnson, thank you. Everyone should have the possibility to volunteer within the Red Cross societies and the ICRC, no matter what their disability is. They should decide on their limits and Red Cross societies adapt. Thank you so much, Andrew. Beautiful. Then try to think about the how methodology. I mean, how can we adapt our national societies in a concrete way? Perfectly. Yes. The importance of understanding, listening, talking about the topic. Then we have Danielle, Robert. How can we build the bridge of the Red Cross? By having many different abilities, types, roles available for volunteers to choose from that are in line with their abilities. Perfect. Thank you so much, Danielle. Good question, Paulvin. Use technology, for instance, captioning videos will, in this aspect, what can be done for the blind? Really good question. Heather, question 1. In Toronto, Canada, there is a technical institute for inclusive design. We tested software there. We are accountable to build with communities. Awesome. Good to hear that. Something else? Time is running. So take part, be action. Always Heather. When I lived in Qatar, they also had the same time of facility but went further. You could use the devices and learn how to better respect lived experience. Absolutely useful. Chiyuki Yoshida. We understand their unique experiences and challenges, and we are aware we have the similar experience and challenges. Promoting and education are important. I absolutely agree with you. To focus on education maybe is the real key. Yeah. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. Anything else? Last considerations and feedbacks? You are doing great, guys.
Okay, stop wrapping up.
Perfect.
Because we're going to be 10 seconds late.
Yes.
Start closing. Same thing, we're going to explain them what's happening here. I have been sharing with them how it's
Danielle is saying, I think we have to do a good job at making it safe for folks to disclose disabilities. Absolutely. In Burundi, Bigirindavi Bonis, there is education inclusion for all where disabled and not disabled study in the same class. Interpreter is the same as the speaking teacher and they get good marks. Perfectly.
And also for the people who listen the Zoom and YouTube channel, they're having a great
Thank you so much, guys.
and they are part of us.
So much, guys.
The first table that want to share with us their reflections.
excellent. Because I have to say that every single table chooses the president of the table in a very democratic way. You are designed to do it.
No, it's okay. Okay, so thank you very much. So I'm not the president, but I'm representing the president. Yeah. Okay, so you gave us 2 points. So I'm just going to hit it straight. Like I'm not going to say this. Okay.
Perfect.
So, okay, so we have a lot of points. So the first one here says we need to validate ourselves to see if our national society has enough inclusiveness. Let's say in terms of maybe projects or programs they are carrying on. Or what? Yeah, or workplaces too. Yeah. Then the next point also, it talks about having a proper communication channel between the communities, the national society, using CEA as a channel. Then we also have, we need to recognize the importance of people living with disabilities in the community. So whenever the national society is carrying out a program or a project or an activity, they should at least include that in maybe like in a concept note or in a program they are doing. They should have that part that says, okay, when we are carrying out this, taking these information to the community, we're also going to put in our mind that if we have people that maybe PWDs in the communities, we also have other ways to communicate with them. So they should include that in programming. Then we have, we don't discriminate them. So national societies should have PGIs, protection, gender, and inclusion, in each as a department, and then PGIs should communicate or relate with other departments. Because normally, let's say for example now, maybe for the DM or health, they might be carrying out activities in these communities. So PGIs, CEH should also be aware of this. Cool. And also we have conducting trainings to PWDs, such as self-care, PSS, and empowerment. Now, if all these trainings are happening, they'll also be like empowered, independent, or able to like stand on their own. And then these trainings could help them connect to others. So say, for example, now a training was done for maybe a PWD, and then based on the interest, he goes or she goes to the community, and then she passes that same information to another person, and that person passes. So it will develop like a community where like everybody will not be aware of, hey, okay, so this training happened, and then there'll be that awareness, and they would also like to come over. Then the last one here, we have training of volunteers in sign languages in the National Society. Like it should be some sort of compulsory, yeah, because most volunteers or staffs, they usually go to the field, right? So instead of maybe depending on community-based volunteers to like pass out a message, because I'm not saying community-based volunteers cannot pass out a message, but imagine if you are giving out information, life-saving information in the community, right? And then you now have somebody interpreting what you are saying. The person might not get it 100%. So it would be good if at the branch level or the headquarters level, volunteers and staffs actually knows how to read sign languages, okay? And the last one.
So I'll join in for a specific topic, that is youth. So if we we can always invite for the inclusivity purposes to have them with us to be a volunteer of us. But the thing is, we need to make sure that our environments are actually inclusive for them, and there has been a long-standing way and approach within the RCRC movement for it. It is called YABC, most of you know, right? I suppose you know youths as agents of behavioral change. It talks about inclusion within the youth, among the youth, and it delivers the message of respect and diversity and non-violent communication. So, but sadly, it has not been a priority of the national societies, and I would like to address that as there are many national societies, please try to, I am a youth, I know how it works, I need your support for this particular toolkit to be implemented in your national society. Thank you.
Thank you for stable. Okay, the second ones. Go ahead. You have the, we pass the microphone, thank you. Another president of the table, very democratic, elected.
Okay, thank you so much, my group members, for this opportunity, for representing them. So, in our group, we talked of how we can bridge between the disability into volunteering. One is giving them leadership position within the Red Cross Society, because we believe we can empower them if they have the responsibility and they are tasked to do 1, 2, 3 things, which means they will feel we believe in them, and that is one way we can empower them. Again, among the volunteers, we can have a group of volunteers for disabilities. The volunteers who are disabled are able to take care of others who are also disabled. In one way or the other, they can empathize with each other better than a person like me who doesn't have any touch with disability. So that can be a very good approach. And then how we can now allow other national societies to adopt it. One, I think everything is going to take to technology, and if we can build like an app. I have a friend who is working on a Signverse app which uses sign language, an interpretation of a sign language that I can write a text and an AI avatar tells me in sign language. So even if I'm a volunteer or I'm a member of any society and I'm with a volunteer who is disabled and maybe we want to communicate, because I think communication is one of the barriers, I can just use my phone, get to text what has happened and see what it means. So if other societies can adopt such technological approaches to such issues, I think it's going to be a good way of communication. Again, we can bring in other societies together to reduce the cost, maybe in the construction of these facilities that can accommodate people with disabilities. And also, we can have also public crowdfunding, where now in such an event or other event, where now we bring in donors and people to fund these projects and also to empower the people with disabilities. But I don't feel we should not include them. I feel like they need to be included. We all feel like they need to be included because in one or the other, it can happen at any point. I might wake up the next day, I'm disabled, and I will want to still be included in the community. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you so much. The third table.
Thank you so much, Carla. During our discussion, we noticed that, or we agreed that the conversation has been going on even within some of our national societies, though for some of us we noticed that it was a bit absent. So we decided to bring up solutions that move us quickly to more action. And so the first point was that we as national societies or the movement itself should take actionable steps and demonstrate the action. For instance, the question was asked here that in this convention, did we have enough facilities for, for people who are disabled? Do we have ramps? Do we come with an interpreter, for instance? If we didn't have, is it Mohammed? Is it, yeah? For instance, if we didn't have him today, did we prepare? Did we have that action within us to put these facilities? So for our first action was we in the movement should show, from even our headquarters. For instance, in my headquarters, we don't have ramps, for instance, for, easing movement. We don't have anything to do. We are not showing, from the national society itself, we're not showing. Just before talking, we're not showing that we want to include these people. So that was our first point of a solution for, how we can position ourselves to, to reach out to the people and, so it's about action. And then the second one was working with, we already have organizations around us in our countries, working with different special needs groups. So we can quickly move and start working with them as a way of reaching out, create collaborations with them and work with them. And we have a strong brand. And if we have collaborations with these people that are already specialized to handle these special interest groups, then I think we shall move faster. And then the third one was about diversification of our movement in itself. How many of these special needs people do we have within our movement? So just like we attract the youth by, having the youth, so that when someone is looking in from outside, they can say, this is the kind of organization I want to join as a youth. Then they should be able to see some youth inside that organization, then they're attracted by it. So the diversification, we think, is one of the things that can help us, so that to show that we're willing to, include and work with these people and move forward. Our group didn't per se elect a president, so everybody at some point would jump in, and this is the point if I have left out anything. Anything, guys? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Carla. So for our group, our first point was we need to create a policy that is cultural, sensitive, and diverse, so that we ensure people with disability and the minority group are included. And then we need to have technology that can empower people with sign language. For example, putting this in our e-portal, learning portal. We can ensure that there's introduction of sign language within our volunteers and staff. Perhaps it can be enacted in our policy that is somewhat mandatory, as we have the corruption policy and grievances policy. As other groups has mentioned, accessible facilities like ramps and elevators. We also need to sensitize parents and staff on the existence of persons with disability. And then there was that debate on the number of people, and perhaps it's a question for the people in the room. We usually say we need to include two-thirds gender for women into leadership roles or any other roles. So do we need to also include perhaps a third of these people with disabilities in our policies or activities? And then the second question, we said we can include a curriculum of sign language in our school for early learning so that young students can understand this from a young age. And then we can encourage our volunteers to take up e-signing course, and they can be TOTs to teach others. And then we also realize there's a gap in, we don't have an office per se. I'm not sure about other national societies, but all these national societies, we don't have an office for a person in charge of people living with disabilities. So they feel very left out. They can't come complain to us, or they can't give us ideas. So we need that escalated up to the top position. And then introduction of the sign language in the IFRC portal. And then partnership with government to ensure that correct data is captured for people living with PWD. And then collaboration with other organizations and stakeholders to ensure that we have activities over and over. Thank you.
Wow!
Thank you so much, Carla. So for our group, we came up with, say, 2 solutions. Number one is ensuring that people living with disabilities are represented in every committee, that is in governance, and also the same in management. Like, for example, we are having a committee of 10 people. We ensure that maybe 3 people from this committee should be people representing those living with disabilities. And then number 2 is ensuring that we have volunteers that help in implementing activities. This is at the branch level. Let me use an example to make it clear. As my colleague has mentioned, in their community, they have a problem with teenage pregnancies again. So you realize that a percentage of these people who are affected are those living with disability, but then they don't have. They cannot speak up and say, this is the person, this is the victimizer, they did this and this and this and this. But then if you're having volunteers who are living with disabilities, if these people go to this community, have PSS sessions, or maybe talk to them, they will feel motivated because they are seeing an image of themselves talking to them. So having these people as volunteers in the branch level will really help a lot. And then on number 2, is having policies that will help the 2 solutions that I've said be implemented. That is from the national level all the way to the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We want to share one more group. It's our virtual group.
Sure.
That had been talking a lot and having a great discussion. And as they need a voice, Afaf is going to borrow her voice to bring them alive. Go.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have Andrew Johnson saying that everyone should have the possibility to volunteer within the Red Cross societies, no matter what their disability is. They should decide on their limits and Red Cross. Then we had Paulvin Nelvin saying that creating awareness and understanding is the key. We have to have this conversation in a start, so basically talking about it. We have Danielle Robert. I think we have to do a good job at making it safe for folks to disclose disabilities, she's saying. Then we have Heather Leeson saying that building bridges means listening and learning, and she also shared experiences such as in Toronto, Canada, there is a technical institute for inclusive design. We tested software there. We are accountable to build these communities, And then she's saying that when she lived in Qatar, they also had the same time of facility, but went further. You could use the devices and learn how to better respect lived experience. What else? We have Chiyuki Yoshida saying that we understand their unique experiences and challenges, and we are aware we have the similar experience and challenges. Promoting and education are important, so doing promotion and educate is the key. Then we have Bijir Ndavi Bonis. In Burundi, there is education inclusion for all where disabled and not disabled studying in the same class. And interpreter is the same as the speaking teacher, and they get good marks. And the last consideration from Paulvin Nelvin is use technology. For instance, captioning videos will. In this aspect, what can be done for the blind? Yeah, so interesting. And
I will suggest also an applause for them.
Yes,
that have been
absolutely.
working a lot online.
Absolutely.
That are also present with us here. The conversation can goes and goes and goes for a long time. We need to work a lot. We need to reflect a lot. We need to build a lot of bridges. But the intention of this session, it was just the opportunity to talk and start the conversation about this. Nothing further. Before we are gonna go outside and have fun, we're gonna ask you to do just two things. Absolutely volunteer-based. The first one, no, I'm gonna explain the second one before the first one. It will make sense, I promise. We are gonna ask you to come home with the reflection of today, but we are gonna ask you, if you feel that you can, to make a promise, a simple promise. The fact that you're gonna introduce in one way or another this conversation inside your national society. That's it. If you're willing to do that, we're gonna let you this. And you just have to put your name there. Not the National Society, your name, your signature, as a way to say today, we are gonna have this commitment to just come back home and try to have this conversation in our national society. The first thing, this is the second one. The first, I'm gonna go back. The first one that we are gonna ask you is to help us to read something all together. So Simone, come here with me. Let's see if you can, you're the tallest. So we're gonna use you. Can you help us, please, to read this? Can we start in 1, 2, 3? Henry Dunant said that so much time ago. It's still the right words in this very moment. Everyone can. People with disabilities, people that are part of minority groups, ourselves, everyone can. Innovation is also looking to those words with the eyes of the 21st century. Thank you so much. We should go. So thanks so much also the people in Zoom. Bye-bye, thank you. If you're willing to put your name there, you're very, very much welcome. Thank you.
Never forget to take part and be action, okay? Thank you, guys.